Hello YouTube, it's me FemShep, and as you may have heard, I am wildly excited about the results of the UK-EU First World Warrior online qualifier, because not only did Marisa win World Warrior, modern Marisa won World Warrior, and that's because of this guy, Infectious, who I had not heard of because I am very, very new to the FGC, Street Fighter 6 being my first fighting game. But from what I understand, he's been playing since Street Fighter 4. He's been incredibly successful for a long time. He kind of vanished for like 2 years, and now he returned when the people needed him most. And to everyone's shock, he returned playing not only Marisa, but modern Marisa. And the cool thing about finding a new player that you want to take notes from is that, of course, you can find their replays on CFN. But the even cooler thing is that because World Warrior is run entirely online, I was actually able to find the replays from the World Warrior itself and then go and actually see the frame data and the inputs and all of the behind the curtain stuff from an actual tournament match. So today, I'm going to be looking at a couple of what look to be casual matches from a long set of Infectious versus a Ken, and then I want to look specifically at Infectious Infectious tournament set versus EndingWalker's Ryu, because I have just been sitting in these replays absolutely gobsmacked and inspired and excited. It's hard enough to find high-level Marisa players to study. We're lucky to have Lazy Boredom, Goldbanks, Mr. Madgear, Bane Hollow. It's even harder to find modern Marisas to study at a high level. The only one I can think of is Papo Linlin, and I haven't ever seen him play a tournament. So this is a big deal to have somebody we can look to for the modern specific Marisa inspiration, because I can't even tell you how many replays I've watched and just been like, well, I don't have stand heavy kick, so what could I have done there? Well, I don't have Spartan kick, so I couldn't have killed there. What would I have done there? And the constant added layer of having to translate to what's possible in our control scheme, that doesn't exist here. If he can do it, then in terms of available input possibilities, we can do it. And I want to learn as much as humanly possible from what I would say is inarguably the strongest modern Marisa around right now, because this was a truly incredible run. And so I saved a handful of replays. I'm going to go through 3 or 4 versus this Ken in what looks to have been a very long set online. They're probably friends. And then I'm going to go through his set with EndingWalker, which was first to 2 because it was to qualify for top 8. It was prior to top 8, which is first to 3. So let's get into it. Have I mentioned how excited I am? This is Marisa season. This is modern Marisa season. I have no excuse now. I need to study up.
Don't expect me to be a pushover. Round 1. Fight.
Okay, so right here is the moment that I went, this is Christmas. This is the coolest thing I've ever seen. The sequence that follows this has so many mind games in literally 6 seconds of gameplay. I'm just gonna have to stop and talk about it. Okay, so what just happened? So he gets the knockdown with the phalanx. You only get double dash Oki if the phalanx is punish counter. So he does a single dash, and then he goes for a charge stand heavy punch. I don't think that would have hit Meaty necessarily, but he's not really close enough to Ken for Ken to have a motivation to wake up with a button. The only thing Ken really could have done that would have blown that up would be to wake up with an invincible reversal on the first knockdown in the game, which is unlikely at this level of play. So he goes for the fully charged stand heavy punch. It actually hits, it looks like, after Ken gets off the ground a bit here. Yeah, he's already off the ground, but Infectious is charging before he gets off the ground. So the odds of him reacting to this with a reversal or a perfect parry are a lot lower. He's kind of waking up into the situation. So he blocks. And the fully charged stand heavy punch, when it's not off drive rush, is +4. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means that the stand medium punch would be a frame trap if Ken were to press his fastest button. So Ken is disincentivized from pressing a button because he could get frame trapped into a gigantic combo from this situation. Infectious knows this, but because he's already confident that Ken knows he shouldn't press a button, he presses stand heavy punch. Stand heavy punch is 12 frame startup, and Infectious was only +4 here. So this button absolutely could have gotten counter hit. He's showing that he's so confident it was his turn that he's not afraid to press a button that he really shouldn't be allowed to press and do even bigger pressure, because he didn't have time to press a heavy here of any kind. He only had time to press a medium as a frame trap. Any heavy could have gotten counter hit, even back heavy punch. But he does this anyway. Ken is still blocking. And now Infectious is -3. So he's safe, but his turn is over. Or it should be. He immediately goes for OD stance from the -3 situation. So in sequence here, we have not exactly real pressure on Ken's wake up with the fully charged stand heavy punch. Then more technically fake pressure and pressing a heavy after that when only the medium would have been real. And then he is still insisting upon the fact that it is his turn from minus frames with OD stance. The message he has sent here in the first 6 seconds of this round is, fuck you, I'm going to keep pressing buttons. So what do you do if someone keeps pressing buttons? You get them off of you. And that's what Ken decides to do. And then he blocks. The rapid shift here between the message he was initially sending and just shifting gears dramatically is such a powerful way to approach offense as Marisa, because he is just an absolute bulldog with it. And then as soon as he's confident that he's been disrespectful enough to provoke a response, he's willing to just end his pressure and block instead of going for a strike or a throw or anything here. Just blocks. He doesn't have Spartan kick, so we no longer have to be like, oh, we couldn't do as much damage as he did. He's doing the same exact combo we would. He actually used the auto combo there a little bit even, which is kind of neat to see somebody at a high level recognize that there's occasional utility for auto combos. He does the fully charged back heavy punch into light phalanx here, which is a safe jump. I struggled to input this, but you can always replace this with the fully charged stand heavy punch target combo after the Dima, since the patch, that is also plus 42, so we can also get a safe jump here. What does he do with the safe jump situation? He jumps in, he gets perfect parried. Because it's a safe jump, he's still safe after the perfect parry, even though Ken presses his fastest button. He is not actually going to get punished for having gotten perfect parry because it was a safe jump. So Ken is pressing here, backing up, safe jump, perfect parry, presses a light, presses a medium. Ken is -3 after the medium punch. He could do a frame trap into the target combo, but he is minus. So Infectious asserts his turn with a 4 frame. And then instead of continuing to press after asserting his turn, once again, he goes, I know it's my turn, I'm gonna press. He just barely backs off. He shimmies off a raw crouch light punch to where Ken's crouch medium kick, even though it was pressed near immediately, is not able to catch the walk back. And he's already reacting with the stand heavy punch with punish, and that's the round. And I believe that is optimal meter build there to go for the looping back heavy punch into medium punch target combo. Starts the round with forward medium punch. The confidence there that Ken's gonna walk forward. Granted, it's not the easiest button in the world to whiff punish, but still, frame 1 forward medium punch is pretty bold. Forward medium punch on block would be -3. It hits here, so it's plus, but it's only +2. It only combos on counter hit. On counter hit, it's +4, and he would have comboed into jabs into light Dima. Here, he's only +2. But most people are unlikely to press after they just got hit. So once again, he disrespects the actual math of the frame data and how plus he is, because his turn should still be over. And immediately starts charging the stand heavy punch again in Ken's face to go for his drive meter. Look how much drive meter that takes on block. That's almost a whole bar. And now he's still technically disrespecting the frame data because the back heavy punch is a frame too slow to be a real frame trap, but it's a little more real. It's a lot less risky than going for the stand heavy punch. So he figured, all right, I don't want to run the risk that this time Ken's gonna press a button because he knows I left a big gap. I'm gonna leave a smaller gap, and if Ken had pressed anything that wasn't a 4 frame there, he was still gonna get counter hit. He didn't, but back heavy punch into light Gladius, first of all, takes a whole bar drive gauge. Look at Ken's drive meter just from this sequence. He's already down almost 2 whole bars. And back heavy punch into light Gladius is a spacing trap anywhere on the screen. So it leaves Infectious in a very good position. And he knows it's a spacing trap. He immediately does a wish punish after the spacing trap with the crouch medium punch. It looks like he elected to not buffer a drive rush behind it necessarily, but he did attempt to catch Ken potentially pressing a medium that would whiff after the spacing trap. Ken didn't do that. Ken jumped. He then reacts to the fact that Ken neutral jumped and his button whiffed by going for another fully charged stand heavy punch. This is not an option that would have occurred to me ever. But he saw it was a neutral jump. Ken can't possibly land on him while he's charging, so he can once again assert pressure. As soon as Ken can move again, it's already coming for him. The odds of him reacting with perfect parry are way lower when this is happening as other things are happening. Ken does react with parry, but he doesn't get the perfect parry. So Infectious is still +4. Ken got some drive meter back, but still an advantageous frame data position for Infectious. And since he has seen that Ken is still not pressing after the fully charged stand heavy punch on block, he does the disrespectful stand heavy punch again, even though there's a huge gap. And again, asserts his turn when he shouldn't with stance. Does he bait this time or not? No. This time he goes for the safest option after just blocking and doing nothing, and that is going for a normal throw. And I think this is kind of underrated after OD stance. I think we're really incentivized as Marisa players to either go for a light to catch them trying to jump, or to go for the command grab in case they block. It feels very much like those are your 2 options. But a regular throw is a really strong option here, because if Ken had jumped, then Infectious still would have had time to anti-air after the throw whiffed. Whereas if he had done a command grab and Ken had jumped, he would have gotten punished pretty severely. Ken, however, elected to do what I think is a delayed throw tech here. So he gets some more drive meter back. Now he actually has the drive meter lead on Infectious, and we're kind of back to neutral. I don't know why he threw the stand heavy punch there. My guess is that he thought Ken was going to become active again after they reset to neutral, and he was going to catch him doing a drive rush or a jump or something. But he whiffed. And instead of reacting with a bigger whiff punish, Ken just reacted with a light and wasn't actually close enough to get a combo. There he reacts to the whiff properly. Infectious gets knocked down by the sweep. Really, Ken could have done a crouch medium kick drive rush cancel into side switch with the Dragon Lash. He had the meter to do that, but he goes for the jump over after sweep. It is possible to back roll sweeps on punish counter this patch, but Infectious elected not to do that, so he does end up in the corner here. He blocks the correct direction to prevent getting crossed up on his wake up, and then immediately presses after blocking the jump in. I would never have had the audacity to press a button there, ever. I would have still been blocking. And it looks like Ken just very briefly returned to neutral after the aerial light kick for like literally 2 frames before he was blocking. And then got hit briefly trying to back up a missed blocking, trying to micro walk back based on the inputs. And Infectious having the audacity to press here got him a hit. And you can see it was just because Ken was moving because it's not a counter hit. That's real Oki. It's not safe to perfect parry. And Infectious here makes a mistake that I've made like 1,000 times and I'm really comforted that it happens to other people. That would work if Ken hadn't back rolled. Because Ken back rolled, he needed to connect into forward heavy kick there, not a second back heavy punch. Fully charged back heavy punch, off drive rush into back heavy punch, works, but the distance is wrong if they back rolled. He needed to do the knee. He could have actually gone into the heavy auto combo here, which is what I do. But he whiffs. And immediately after whiffing, instead of respecting that he's made a mistake and ending his pressure, he starts charging stand heavy punch. Wait, no, he doesn't charge it. He just throws it. Throws stand heavy punch again. Just to assert, I'm still coming. I'm not panicked. I'm not on the back foot here. You are on the back foot here. Despite the fact that he is below 3 bars of drive, he still is willing to continue to pressure because he has a life lead and because he wants to instill that Marisa fear. He also has level 2 super here, whereas Ken only has level 1 super here. And again, from the -3 situation, asserts his turn, knows that Ken wants to finally do something because he is so advantaged here in terms of drive meter, in terms of so many things, and just disrespects the turn anyway. And Ken elects to just block it out this time. Doesn't want to risk a throw tech when he could get counter hit. And so Infectious going for the throw again actually works out. Anti-airing with Phalanx is insane. I think that was a coincidence, but it's still insane. Dashes forward again to maintain the spacing. Here, I think what happened is he whiffed the light punch, and Ken is just reacting to the movement by attempting to whiff punish with the crouch medium kick. But Infectious blocks it. He drive rush cancels the crouch medium kick into crouch light punch. So this is a true block string, and Ken is now +3. It's strike throw shimmy city. He goes for a frame trap. Infectious blocks. Infectious registers that Ken is now -3 and goes for the light punch target combo, which would have beaten a 4 frame. That is actually a true option here. And Ken gets frame trapped by the second hit of the light punch target combo on block because it will frame trap. And the light gladius hits him. If he blocked that, it still leaves Infectious at a good spacing. And again, with the disrespect, the drive rush into DI here. He has such a life lead that he's not afraid to take a big risk, because the drive rush in all likelihood is going to be a drive rush into a button or a throw. So Ken is likely looking to react here with at most a delay tech. And what we actually see is that Ken was blocking this entire time and was not ready to react. If Ken had reacted with level 1 super here, he would have gotten the side switch and burnt Infectious out. So this was absolutely a risky option, but it works out for him, and Ken dies. Next one. I'm having so much fun, y'all. I haven't had this much fun in a replay review, I think, ever. Round start, walk forward, crouch medium punch, buffered into drive rush. Catches Ken walking forward into what appears to have actually been a 4 frame. But it catches him before he presses a button. He was not expecting Marisa to walk forward immediately. He gets hit, combo. +42, but not close enough to get a safe jump. Dashes forward, into fully charged stand heavy punch. I'm gonna check the frame data real quick on that situation. How fast is Marissa's forward dash? Plus 42. Hang on a second. Marisa, SF6, dash speed. Forward dash speed, 22. Alright, so plus 42 minus 22 is 20. And the fully charged stand heavy punch is how long startup? 23 frames. Oh! That's meaty. That's new. So if you get the safe jump knockdown, but you are too far from the corner to go for a safe jump, immediate forward dash into fully charged stand heavy punch is a real meaty. That's awesome. Okay. Plus 4. Slightly fake frame trap again. Wish punish. After the spacing trap, he autopilots a whiff punish in case Ken hit a button. Ken didn't hit a button, he jumped. This is where I would just block or potentially panic and get hit. That's not what Infectious does. Immediately goes into OD stance, recognizing that Ken is almost definitely going to hit a button on the way down, and so maintains his offensive pressure after the whiff. The amount of anti-airing that Infectious does with armor stance is crazy to me. As somebody that heavily has relied on the modern Gladius as an anti-air, I have never seen anybody use the modern armor stance as an anti-air the way that Infectious does. And it's very unintuitive as an anti-air on Classic. Beyond just being harder to react with, on Classic it's a quarter circle back input as an anti-air. Whereas DPs are forward inputs, some DPs are double down inputs. A quarter circle back anti-air is more uncommon. Technically, her light Dima is the same way. Either way, this is just a lot harder and a lot less intuitive to do on Classic. And I think that might be why we haven't seen Marissa's do it more often, because there aren't a lot of modern Marissas running around, especially at this level. Disregard the train in the background there. Alright, so he gets the anti-air with armor stance, and then has the situational awareness to register that Ken is going to be falling for a minute after this counter hit, and hits another button to juggle Ken into a reset instead of a knockdown. And I saw this in multiple replays that I was looking at with Infectious, that he will do armor stance anti-air when the opponent is very high in the air, and then register that because they're so high in the air, he actually has time to hit a medium punch or a medium kick on their way down for a confusing reset where people don't necessarily have an option in their muscle memory. He then attempted to throw Ken, and Ken mashed because that wasn't actually a real option. But he wasn't actually close enough to get a combo. And as a result, he gets hit by Infectious's light punch. And Infectious, once again, after a single light punch, he registers that most people don't want to mash after they've been hit. So instead of continuing that light punch into something at least somewhat real, he leaves a huge gap. Into a fully charged stand heavy punch again, which gives him an opportunity to go for Ken's drive meter and build himself back towards being up above 3 bars. And here he does an actually real frame trap with the light punch target combo. He could have done medium. I'm not sure why he elected to go for light and not medium, since either of them would have frame trapped, but he gets the counter hit with the light punch target combo. Worth noting that he could have killed here if he wanted to spend the meter. If you drive rush cancel that on counter hit into the stand medium kick, there was absolutely a route to kill here with level 1 super. I don't know if he didn't realize that in the moment or if he didn't want to spend super meter in round 1, but because this is modern, I can actually do the replay takeover. Oh, I don't think that would have killed. Yeah, I don't think that would have killed. I stand corrected. I definitely would have spent meter there that I shouldn't have. So that's great awareness on his part. I was thinking it would have been possible. But yeah, I guess doing 50% when he has barely above 3 bars and it was a light starter and only has level 1 is not going to happen. So he elects to save his meter despite confirming the counter hit, whereas I probably would have done a drive rush cancel and put myself in a bad meter situation. This is crazy. This is crazy. I have never seen anybody else do this. The Gladius knockdown is plus 36. So is the medium Dima, quarter circle back medium knockdown. And I've seen him do this off both plus 36 knockdowns, mid-screen or in the corner. Forward dash, uncharged OD Gladius into holding block, beats wake up DP, and allows Marisa to block. I have never seen anybody beat the OD DP on wake up with a preemptive OD Gladius read. This is insane. And Ken dies.
Round 2. Fight.
Walk forward into this time forward medium punch. Would have comboed on counter hit, would have been plus 2 on hit. Here it's minus 3 on block. He elects not to go for armor stance that time. He's not going to armor stance every time he's negative 3 because that's too predictable and therefore too punishable. But he does kind of just wait, briefly block to see what Ken's going to do, sees Ken is walking away and out of range, and so comfortably stands up again knowing that Ken can't do anything from here that's going to hit him low. Goes for the Superman punch to close the distance. Ken reacts into combo. Good on Ken. It looks like Infectious tried to press a crouch light on wake up there, thinking Ken wasn't going to do something that was real oaky, but Ken did, and he got counter hit. Gets the perfect parry. This is harder to do this patch, because in order for that to be a perfect parry, he had to not only tap parry, but correctly guess that it was going to be a crouching normal, or a normal that does not hit low, rather, a standing normal, and not a low. If Ken had done drive rush into crouch light kick here, or something with crouch medium kick here, then it would have been an imperfect parry. But Infectious elected to wake up, stand blocking, and tap parry for a chance of getting the perfect parry, and it works out. Goes for the back throw for the side switch. Okay, this is crazy here. All right, let's talk about this. Marisa gets a lot of real oaky off of back throw. She can drive rush into stand heavy punch here. I think she can drive rush into stand medium kick here. She can drive rush into throw here, even. A lot of real oaky. Instead, goes for a light phalanx. And it is not possible for that to connect on his wake up. It doesn't go far enough. He taps parry on reaction, but it doesn't go far enough. I want to see if it would have gone far enough if it had been another version of the phalanx. Yeah, medium or heavy would have gone far enough. But light doesn't. Baits the parry, and then attempts to catch the tap parry recovery. He could just walk forward and punish counter throw Ken here. And that would put Ken under 3 bars of drive and he would take 2,000 damage. So not bad. But Infectious doesn't want to do the obvious thing. He attempts to punish the tap parry with a jump scare DI. And it's not actually early enough to punish counter the tap parry, but Ken tried to hit a crouch light punch there to assert his turn, and actually gets punish countered from the jab. All right, what's the move here on Oki? Once again, Gladius knockdown, plus 36. Goes for dash forward into OD Gladius to bait the DP. This time Ken just blocks. But that's fine, because Marisa is only -2. Marisa is completely safe here. There's no there's no risk of being punished for doing this on Ken's wake up. Other than the fact that it costs 2 bars of meter. And Infectious had a full 6 bars of drive to work with here. So there was really no reason not to go for it. And it's not entirely unbelievable that Ken would have DP'd here, because Ken is in a very bad drive meter situation already. So he may have just decided to burn out on his own terms and get out of the situation. Also possible that he would have just done level 1 to bust out, in which case Infectious would have gotten hit and side switched. But it doesn't do that much damage, and Infectious still, even if he got hit by a super, would still have 3 bars of drive. So all told, really good risk-reward analysis here, and I need to start using this dash forward into OD Gladius Oki. I need to lab this immediately. That is the coolest freaking thing. Then attempts to assert his turn from minus frames with the stand medium punch. Does not commit to the target combo, which would have gotten him punished. Just the one button. Ken jumped. He registers that Ken jumped and goes for, I think it was a little too late, and that's how the timing worked out, the stance as an anti-air. It instead catches Ken hitting a button on his landing. And again, we see use of throw after armor stance, which is particularly valuable near the corner, because as you can see here, he goes for back throw, and now Ken is back in the same fucking situation. Once again, baits with the light phalanx. Ken cannot stop tapping parry in response to phalanx. It is ingrained in the muscle memory. Goes for the same exact DI jump scare, but Ken learned from last time. Infectious's approach here is, I'm going to keep doing it until you show me I should stop, and Infectious does in fact demonstrate that he should stop. And this is not great for Infectious, because he's got a chunky life lead, and he has level 3, but this is very nearly going to burn him out. In fact, it does burn him out. And Ken goes for level 3 here, not only to even out the life bars, but to give himself a chance to recover his drive meter. Alright, what's the move here? Ken gets real Oki off of this. And Infectious is in burnout. What's the move? He decides to just block the meaty. And despite the fact that he is plus, that Ken is plus, goes for mashing, which is crazy. I want to look at Ken's inputs as that mash came out. Okay. So Ken hit his single light punch, and then it looks like hesitated to see what Infectious was going to do, and then went for a delayed throw. The delayed throw would have still beaten if Infectious had immediately pressed a button, I believe. But Infectious is not incentivized to immediately press a button, because Ken could delay a second light to frame trap him. There are a lot of reasons here not to press. And Infectious at this point decides he might lose the round anyway. He's going to do it on his terms, and he's going to try the hard call out that Ken's not going to do something completely real. If he had canceled into level 3 there, I think it would have killed, and I want to see that. Oh, I gotta back up more to be able to input that. Hang on. I stand corrected. The awareness of exactly how much damage things are gonna do from Infectious here is crazy. Because I see that level 3 would burn him out and get me out of the situation, get me out of the corner. I'm spending it here. I'm 100% spending it here. But Infectious was willing to gamble around on the light because it doesn't lose him any resources. If he gambles the round on level 3, then he goes into final round with no level 3. If he loses this round and still has level 3, he still goes into final round with an advantage. So he doesn't spend it, but he also doesn't complete the Dima. So I think he may have registered as he was about to cancel into level 3 that maybe it was a mistake. And instead he goes for the light punch target combo after not getting the knockdown. Again, preemptive wish punish there on if Ken had tried to move forward and press a button. Gets hit. Throw attack. That's crazy. To react after the throw attack with a forward dash to just say, fuck you, I'm not done. But block afterwards, which is a very, very safe option, is craziness. And then blocks the DP and gets a back throw. I think it was probably a reflex to go for the back throw near the corner, because here he like undoubtedly could have killed with literally anything else. He could have even killed with raw super. And the modern special, the ability to walk forward into raw armor stance. The ultimate fuck you. The ultimate fuck you. And not something that people can do on Classic. It's something I really enjoy pulling out on occasion on Modern, because it's no longer a quarter circle back input. It is very risky. Doing this at random is the reason I didn't get out of pools in Losers Final at Frosty. So your mileage may vary, but because he has not represented this even once, and because this is a guess for game situation, he's walking forward. Ken's gonna press. He knows Ken's gonna press. Ken doesn't have super. Ken doesn't have anything invincible because he doesn't have any drive meter. He has to press. Ken has really no option here. Blocking is a terrible idea. He has to press. And Infectious exploits that and kills him for it. I'm gonna do one more with Ken and then we're gonna move to EndingWalker. Round start whiffing lights. He's kind of just trying to provoke a reaction from Ken, because that's obviously not going to do anything, but he's creating visual noise that Ken can't just assume if he sees his Twitch it's a big button. And you can see why he was attempting to do that, because it's, hey, look, you know, you're going to react, and then goes for the charge stand heavy punch, because he's been baiting Ken to react and telling you maybe you shouldn't react if you see me move. And then he goes for the big thing that you should react to. Unfortunately for him, Ken walked forward into a light punch. Infectious gets counter hit. Oh, it was a light kick. He's lucky it wasn't a light punch, because Ken can't actually get a combo here. Ken could have gotten a combo if he drive rush canceled that crouch medium kick, but they're kind of scrambling. That's not what happened. Infectious takes a micro step back here. After the light kick here whiffs because Infectious took a micro step back. And Ken's stand light kick is one of the only buttons in the game that if you buffer a drive rush, it comes out even on whiff. So Ken gets a drive rush. Infectious was probably already hitting the stand heavy punch here because it's near instantaneous after Ken turns green. But in this situation, it actually counter hits the drive rush, and he confirms the counter hit into a knockdown. This only works on counter hit. Reloki. Drive rush into Gladius. Drive rush into Gladius is kind of like drive rush into Ryu's donkey kick or drive rush into Bison's scissor kick. It basically catches them attempting to check the drive rush and beats their check by stopping your momentum and throwing out armor. Ken didn't actually try to check anything. He went for parry. Lucky for Infectious, it wasn't perfect parry. But Infectious is really mixing between real Oki and fake Oki here to throw Ken off. Throws another stand heavy punch. It whiffs because Ken jumped back. But that's actually a good situation for Infectious because Ken put himself closer to the corner. Infectious wants to make sure Ken stays in the corner and immediately forward dashes after the jump. and gets hit. He doesn't quite have time to block again after the forward dash, but it was only a fireball. So he's not actually in danger of getting comboed or anything, and it was very little damage. It was only 600 damage. So this is still a good situation for Infectious. Walks forward into a medium that whiffs. Ken attempts to whiff punish the whiffed medium with a sweep that also whiffs. Infectious attempts to whiff punish the whiffed whiff punish with a medium that also whiffs, making this a whiffed whiff whiff punish. Whiffs again, trying to catch Ken pressing. Ken again tries to whiff punish the whiffed medium, but Infectious is maintaining this exact spacing where if you try to whiff punish his whiff, you got baited. He's whiffing on purpose here to provoke Ken to attempt a whiff punish when there is no possible way for a whiff punish to connect at this range, and then kills him for it. Or almost. He does dash forward there into just blocking instead of dash forward into OD Gladius. And I think that's notable because if he had done dash forward into OD Gladius here, he would have put himself under 3 bars of drive. You don't want to be in the yellow in this game. So he still decides he wants to bait the DP off this knockdown, but he decides to bait the DP without spending any drive meter on the attempt and just dash forward into block. Weird trade. Throws a stand heavy punch. Doesn't have time to anti-air. Throw tech, we're back to neutral. All right, what's gonna happen? Instead of dashing forward this time, he throws out a button. Previously, he's established that after a throw tech returns them to neutral, he's liable to dash forward. So Ken may very well have pressed a button there preemptively to beat Infectious going for dash forward. This was an attempt to check the check, I think, with the forward medium punch, but it whiffs. Ken tries to whiff punish it, or at least tries to take his turn back. I don't really think he would be whiff punishing with the stand light kick. I think he registers it's too late for a whiff punish. He just wants to assert that he knows it's his turn. He does the stand light kick. The stand light kick is not plus on block. But a lot of Kens will do this thing, and I'm guilty of it myself, where they do stand light kick, and then they hit stand heavy kick immediately afterwards, because the light kick pushes them out, and then the heavy kick will hit like very tip range on hit or on block. So Ken is trying to create space here by pressing light kick into heavy kick, but there's a gap there. You can't actually do that. And Infectious calls it out with the medium punch counter hit and kills him for it.
Round 2. Fight.
All right, we're micro walking. We're tiny forward, tiny back, tiny forward, tiny back. He's baiting Ken to do something and maintaining a safe spacing while also maintaining ambiguous movement. If he just crouch blocks here, there's nothing for Ken to worry about. He's not moving, but he's active while he's waiting. He is still jittering around, and it forces Ken to be uncomfortable because he doesn't know if Infectious is suddenly going to move further forward into his space. And he's again creating threat even from this distance. He's whiffing lights to create motion, to create feints. Ken decides to boldly walk forward, and it works out for him. Overhead works out for him. What's the play? Dash forward into neutral jump. This would have baited wake up armor of any kind. This would have baited wake up super of any kind. And this is adaptation from the Ken. This is the downside of anti-airing with armor stance, and it is the same downside as anti-airing with Gladius. Empty jumps. So obviously going for armor every time as an anti-air has its risks, but it does at least delete the option for them to come down with a button. So it's useful to condition with, nevertheless. In addition, anti-airing with armor stance works out at, I think, more ranges than anti-airing with the Gladius would. And you can option select when you anti-air with armor stance. If you input the command grab and not just the armor stance. Then if they hit a button in the air, the armor will tick. You'll armor through their button, you never get command grabbed. But if they empty jump and they just land in front of you, they get command grabbed on their landing. And I've seen Infectious do this a lot. Unfortunately here, he went for just armor stance. He didn't do the option select, so he got thrown. But I think if he had gone for... Oops. Yep. The option select actually would have beaten it. I gotta lab the timing, but it does work.
Where are you going? Where are you going? Where are you going?
I need to start using this. I absolutely need to start using this. And he gets shimmied and he dies. It happens to the best of us. Good job, Ken.
Do better next time. Final round. Fight.
Again, we have whiffing a light to provoke a reaction. But Ken is not hanging back looking for whiff punishes anymore. Ken is walking forward into buttons. He doesn't care about the visual noise. He's going to start running his offense. Light kick whiffs. Infectious reacts with a whiff punish. Just as a muscle memory thing, it looks like, with stand heavy punch, because that's not really whiff punishable. But that was likely bait from Ken on purpose. Again, whiff a button, they can't whiff punish. Infectious whiffs his whiff punish. Ken whiff punishes the whiffed whiff punish. This is neutral, folks. Ken walks forward a tiny bit, then walks back, probably trying to bait a throw tech, but instead of doing a throw tech, Infectious wakes up with a single jab to assert his turn, and then even though the jab is -3 on block, then proceeds to do a fully charged stand heavy punch again. He is willing to do these charged punches in places where they do not objectively make sense, to force you to be constantly on the back foot that you just don't know when it's going to happen. And Ken blocks it. Look at his drive bar. And now Infectious is getting really disrespectful. He does it a second time. That is a 23 frame startup move when he was only +4. That is the fakest thing imaginable. But Ken is willing to block these out and has demonstrated it. And look at Ken's drive meter. Now it's even worse for Ken. Ken decides he doesn't want to hold these plus frames anymore, and he does a guaranteed drive reversal. But look at his drive meter. Just from that interaction, he's now under 3 bars of drive. And that is the best possible position for Infectious to be in. Perfect parry. And that is the only time in the replays thus far that we have seen Infectious select to anti-air with Gladius instead of armor stance. And that is because the Gladius can cancel into level 3. The awareness here is crazy because this level 3 is going to put Ken very nearly in burnout. So we are at 90 seconds on the clock. In less than 10 seconds of gameplay, Ken is down to about 50% health, and he is 1 blocked normal away from burnout.
Now you know.
Drive rush, medium punches. After level 3 is the closest thing Marisa has to a meaty ever since the level 3 Oki nerf in season 2. It would trade with a jab, but he's willing to bet that Ken is not going to wake up jab in this situation. Target combo on block, drive rush cancel into back heavy punch. Now, if he wanted guaranteed wall splat here, that back heavy punch could go into a phalanx that leaves him plus enough to go into a back heavy punch, all of which would have frame trapped at any point. And then off a non-drive rush back heavy punch, he could get a DI that is guaranteed unless Ken supers. However, if Ken were to super after a sequence like that, it would put Infectious in burnout and allow Ken to start recovering and escape burnout. So instead of continuing into a potential wall splat sequence, he elects to just charge the Gladius in case Ken tries to press anything that isn't a low. Ken doesn't press. He takes a little bit of chip damage. Because of burnout, instead of +4, Infectious is +8. What does he do with that? That actually would have traded with a 4-frame because of the +8. That stand heavy punch would have now traded with a 4-frame. So that is a really good option. And instead of being -3 here, Infectious is still +1. He elects to go for the rest of the target combo because that is so much better against burnout. But Ken has the awareness to go for level 3. Now, the good news is, Ken is still technically in burnout when this is over. So he can't really pressure afterwards. But Infectious is close to burnout himself, and Ken's about to get all of his drive meter back, while Infectious has no super. So this is not really a great situation. Reacts to the forward dash. Wakes up with a crouch medium punch that beats Ken's dash forward into light kick. Has the awareness to recognize that Ken can't really get real pressure here and interrupt. Also has the awareness to register that if he had buffered a drive rush cancel behind that, he would have put himself in burnout and potentially lost the game. So he just takes the one hit and he's fine with that. Technically, I think he's plus enough. Yeah, he's plus enough to go into a single jab here, but I don't think he's close enough. He elects to take no risks, just interrupt Ken's offense. Asserting space, asserting his turn. Again with a single light into charge stand heavy punch. And Ken is even more disincentivized to press here because that single light hit. But Ken actually catches him low during the charged heavy punch startup, which is one of the risks of doing that too much. Catches him with the medium kick. But again, Infectious judged that this is worth the risk because the worst thing that can happen to him here is a Jinrai knockdown. Ken has no super, Ken has no drive meter. In fact, Ken decides to go for run stop just to be close and now be 0 in terms of frame advantage. Infectious presses in case Ken tried to do something cheeky. If Ken had gone for an immediate throw, they were 0. Infectious's mash would have won. Goes for lights into stand lights to create space. Gladius to create space. Stand heavy punch to either poke or potentially catch a whiff punish. But Ken was backing up, so Ken's actually too far even to whiff punish that. Ken is now all the way back at the corner, and Infectious is back above 3 bars of meter. This is no longer a bad situation for Infectious. And he walks forward to keep Ken in the corner. Walks forward into raw armor stance. Because he walked forward just enough that Ken is going to feel the need to press a button. Goes for the throw, because again, if Ken had decided to jump out, he still could have anti-aired. That throw is technically fake. If Ken immediately mashed a 4-frame, he would have won the interaction. But Infectious could not have died if Ken mashed. So it is in his best interest to continue the throw pressure. Again, attempts to bait the DP with empty dash forward. We're trading lights, creating space. Wish punish in case Ken had tried to press after all that space was created. Ken doesn't whiff punish, does try to jump out, and anti-air with armor stance, and wins the game. Where are we at on my recording here? Oh wow, we're already at an hour. This is gonna be 2 videos. I'm gonna record a second video looking at the matches with EndingWalker, and this video is just gonna be the casual matches versus Ken. So if you enjoy this, stay tuned for the sequel. I am having so much fun. All hail Infectious, y'all. It's Modern Marisa season.